Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly wild story from the history of medicine, the life and medical breakthroughs of Professor Gavriil A. Ilizarov. If you're fascinated by stories where sheer human ingenuity completely defies the odds, well, you're definitely in the right place. We're going to explore the evolution of transosseous osteosynthesis, the history behind the legendary Ilizarov apparatus, and how one single guy essentially transformed orthopedics forever.
Okay, let's jump straight into it with a genuinely staggering number, 12.5 centimeters. To put that into perspective, we're talking about nearly 5 inches of human bone. This was the miraculous amount of limb lengthening reported in the Red Kurgan newspaper way back in 1952. Now, in the world of trauma surgery at the time, naturally regenerating that much bone seemed, frankly, physically impossible. Yet, here they were with a documented case of it actually happening.
So, you gotta ask yourself, how exactly did an isolated village doctor spark a massive global orthopedic revolution? It's easily one of the most remarkable stories in modern medical history. Because this breakthrough, it didn't happen in some massively funded metropolitan research university. It happened in a quiet, incredibly remote corner of the world. Section 1. The Village Doctor's Marvel. Ilazarov's journey was, well, it was kind of all over the map. He was born to a mountain Jewish family in Poland, grew up in Azerbaijan, and eventually graduated from medical school down in Crimea. But the real turning point for him hit in 1944. That's when he started his career as a general surgeon in a tiny village hospital in the rural Kurgan region of Russia. He didn't have access to state-of-the-art facilities. He was dealing with the raw, everyday realities of rural medicine and intense post-war trauma. It's just a wildly unlikely starting point for someone who would go on to rewrite the rulebook of modern surgery. Section 2. Inventing the Ilizarov apparatus.
The core concept we need to understand here is transosseous osteosynthesis. Now, it sounds super complex, I know, but the basic idea is actually brilliant. Ilizarov figured out that applying careful, stimulating tension literally causes tissues and bone to regenerate and grow. Think of it almost like carefully guiding the growth of a plant. By using his own uniquely designed external apparatus to perfectly manage compression and distraction, which basically means pushing bone fragments together or very, very slowly pulling them apart, he found he could coax the human body into healing itself and growing entirely new bone exactly where it was needed.
And he wasn't just fixing simple fractures with this. His innovative method managed absolutely devastating conditions, things like non-unions, where a broken bone simply refuses to heal on its own, leaving a patient in chronic pain. He used it to treat the severe after-effects of polio, repair massive bone defects from trauma, and even correct congenital hand and foot pathologies. By giving the body the structural framework it needed to heal, he was offering a functional cure in situations where traditional surgery just completely hit a brick wall. Momentum built up pretty fast from those early rural days. After starting out in 1944, he snagged his author's certificate by 1952 and published that famous 12.5 centimeter lengthening case we talked about earlier. Literally just a year later, the USSR Ministry of Health officially gave the green light for his apparatus to be used. He rapidly rose through the ranks to head the Sverdlovsk lab in 1965, and by 1969, the Soviet government made it official. They named the device the Ilizarov apparatus, permanently cementing his name into medical history. Section 3. Healing Champions and Explorers. So, despite all his domestic success, you might be wondering, how did this break out of Russia? Well, it took 2 extremely high-profile patients to truly pierce the Iron Curtain. In 1968, the elite Soviet Olympic high jump champion Valery Brumel traveled to Kurgan for treatment. That solidified Ilazarov's status as a miracle worker inside the Soviet bloc. But the true global catalyst? That hit over a decade later in 1980, when the famous Italian explorer Carlo Mori sought treatment in Kurgan. Mori's successful healing didn't just stay in the local papers, it immediately grabbed the fascinated attention of top surgeons all over the world. Section 4. The method goes global. I absolutely love this next fact. So when Ilizarov makes his very first trip to Europe in 1982 for the Lecco International Congress in Italy, the standard protocol was a quick 10 to 15-minute speaking slot. But the audience of international doctors was so completely desperate to understand his methods that the organizers just threw the schedule out the window. Instead of 15 minutes, they gave Ilizarov 2 full hours for each of his 4 lectures. It practically turned into this massive impromptu masterclass for the whole medical community. After that Congress, the whole thing just exploded globally.
That exact same year, the Assami Medical Association, which was dedicated purely to studying his methods, was established in Italy. Back home in 1983, a massive new institute, shaped like a giant snowflake, opened in Kurgan just to handle the huge influx of patients. Between 1985 and 1992, Assami expanded into Spain, France, Brazil, and the US. By 1988, doctors from all over the planet were traveling to take his international training courses. Everyone wanted to learn directly from the source.
Section 5. The Kurgan Legacy Today.
Now, Professor Ilizarov passed away in 1992, but the Russian Ilizarov Scientific Center is still operating on a staggering scale today. Out of that iconic, snowflake-shaped building, they consult 250 outpatients daily and run an 800-bed hospital. Every single year, over 9,000 people get treatment there, supported by a highly specialized staff. They even house Russia's National Center for Purulent Osteology, which is basically a direct continuation of his life's work, treating severe bone infections and insanely complex orthopedic challenges.
It's just staggering to think about the sheer output of this one guy. Over his lifetime, he secured 208 Soviet author certificates for his inventions, and 18 of those were patented across 10 different countries. And today, the Ilizarov method isn't just some historical footnote. It's actively applied in more than 40 countries right now, continuously saving limbs and restoring mobility. His impact was so deep that in 1995, an entire scientific journal named The Genius of Orthopaedics was launched specifically in his memory.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought to chew on. Gavriil Ilizarov started with practically nothing but basic tools in a tiny rural hospital, yet his intense observation of bone regeneration resulted in a true medical marvel. If a doctor in a remote Kurgan village could revolutionize orthopedics and change the lives of millions, where might the next great medical breakthrough be hiding right now? What quiet corner of the world is currently hosting the next genius of medicine? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible story with me today. Keep asking questions, keep looking closely, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.